Are you always stuck wondering why other people the way they are? Or are you always really wanting other people to change? Well, today I've got a very interesting little concept for you to change your perspective, to help you get a bit more focused on what you can control and to start to understand other people. That sounds good. Keep on watching and I'll take you through a very interesting concept to help you reframe, recalibrate, and look at things from a different perspective. Hey guys, Matt Tait here. This is Fork in the Road YouTube channel, your channel for transformation. What is this tool I'm talking about? It is the presuppositions of NLP. What the hell does that mean? What are the presuppositions? Well, that's a fancy kind of way of saying the assumptions. There's certain assumptions in someone's thinking when they study NLP. Now, if you don't know what NLP is, it's neuro-linguistic programming. It's the brain, neuro. It's the words, linguistic, the ones we think, the ones we say to ourselves, the ones we say out loud, and patterns or programming. That's the patterns that are the clues as to what's going on in your mind. It's the clues as to what's going on in your unconscious mind so you can get a result faster. That's NLP. And within that, there are hundreds of tools, hundreds of them. And in particular today, I just want to talk about the very beginning point of that whole journey, if anyone's studying NLP. And that would be these presuppositions, the assumptions that an NLP practitioner comes into the world with. Whenever you're facing someone, whenever you're speaking to someone, whether it be at the local supermarket or whether it be in a confrontational situation, like maybe it's a adversarial sort of negotiation of some sort. Or even if you're just dealing with your loved ones, your partner, your husband, your wife, your kids, the presuppositions of NLP help get the ego out of the way and just start look at, well, what's going to get me a better result? Sounds good, doesn't it? And so I want to introduce you to 3 of them today. Just 3 simple ones, and just briefly talk about them to help you get more out of each interaction. Instead of demanding someone else change, to understand where they're coming from, change the way you're communicating, and you can also get a good result out of this interaction. So let me grab my pen and let's jump in. The very first one, going to my little manual over here, is respect the other person's model of the world. Now, we very rarely do this. This one by itself, everybody should have. I'll put it on here. What does that mean? Respect their model of the world. Well, basically, if somebody sees something differently, it means they've had a bunch of experiences. And if they've had a bunch of experiences that are different to yours, you might have a clash in beliefs. And so when you don't have to have everybody believing what you believe, but you can let them believe their thing, you believe your thing, but approach them with some curiosity. I wonder how they've come to that conclusion, what their life experiences might be, and if I put myself in their shoes, would I believe what they believe? It's very interesting. And sometimes, if someone's been through a difficult life, yeah, I would probably be them. What that does is it just softens your communication a little bit. Instead of saying, you're wrong, no, that's not useful. You're not going to get a good result, especially if you try and negotiate with your kids, with your parents, with your spouse, in negotiation with a potential client or negotiating up to your boss. You need to find what their model of the world is, what is it that they're believing, and if you start inquiring as to, where does that come from? That's an interesting perspective. you might actually learn a bit of their life story. It starts to connect people instead of separating us all. There's a lot of people out there that love dividing everybody because it keeps them all separate. And they hold a lot of power by keeping people separate. Happens in lots of different situations. But if you can start to be inquisitive, I wonder where this idea has entered their mind, or what the series of building blocks were to get them there. So that is what's meant by respect other people's model of the world. Now, as a practitioner, I can't go saying, "You're wrong," if I'm trying to help someone. I can say, "Okay, cool. Where does that belief come from? Where does that identity come from? Where do those values come from? Where do your skills and where do your capabilities come from? Where do your behaviors and your habits come from? And this environment that you've put yourself, where's that all come from?" That is the power of respecting someone's model of the world. You can get a lot of information to help you help them and help each other. That's number one. Number two is this one. Different pen. People are not their behaviors. It's a very good one to practice, to approach each individual. If someone's behaving badly, it's not them. They're doing a behavior for a particular reason. If somebody is, not showing up, it's because they've got a certain thing in their value system, or maybe they really don't want to be there, or maybe there's a block for doing that thing. It's not the person's identity, and we very quick as human beings to label people, this person is that, and we label ourselves. So if somebody is smoking, they say, "I am a smoker." And it's very useful if you say, "Well, no, you smoke, but you don't have to be a smoker." That's an identity statement. And so you can start to go in with that assumption that this person's not a smoker. What they are is somebody who smokes. Now, obviously, if that person has that identity inside of them, you can help them start to break that up and look at themselves differently. Look at themselves as someone who smokes, an action, but you are not a smoker. And so that is a starting point in change. Looking at yourself differently and looking at other people differently. When you say you are this, when you're looking at other people, you are labeling them and putting them in a nice little box. But if you just look at the behavior and understand where this is obviously serving some other purpose, you can start to look at the behavior and say, okay, well, it's doing something for them. You don't have to just say they are the smoker. You can say, well, what is it solving for them? Is it helping them to run away from something that was bad? Is it helping them to, alleviate a stress or a tension? What is it doing for them? You can look at it differently instead of just saying they're a smoker, they're a lost cause. It's not very useful, is it? Okay, so people are not their behaviors. This might be also good with kids, because kids might behave badly, but that's because they're trying to get a result. They're trying to get your attention, perhaps. They're trying to, get away with stuff just to push and test their boundaries. So it's not, the behavior is not who they are. It's them trying to test their environment to see, where do I fit in the world? And you look at it differently. And that way you don't put that label on them, and they don't absorb it that I am just this. I am shy. I am lazy. I am this. I am that. The more that goes in, the more it internalizes, especially coming from your parents. People are not their behaviors. Really good one to approach the world with. Once again, it fosters curiosity. Oh, I wonder where that came from. As opposed to, you're this. That's the second one. People are not their behaviors. And now number 3 on the list. People are doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have available. What does that mean? Well, if you could imagine that someone who you're upset with, maybe you're upset with your parents, and you're upset with stuff that happened when you grew up. Now, those parents were doing the best they could with what they knew, with who they thought they were. Now, if they were, in a bad situation growing up, maybe they didn't have good role models, maybe they were abused, maybe they were, put in a bad situation, and then they are dropped onto planet Earth as a parent, and a parent of perhaps you, and they have no idea what to do. And all they're doing is repeating the patterns they saw. They're doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Now, this obviously doesn't help a person if that person happens to be the child that's gone through trauma or abuse. But what it does is that as a practitioner, you approach it looking at, all right, that person clearly didn't have the self-love they needed to look after children. And so something was going on for them. They had just a disastrous life. And so once a practitioner has perhaps helped the person resolve their own internal trauma, resolving those issues, disconnecting from those old emotions, letting them out, reprocessing them, and making sure that they are now kind of their own person. Those old traumas, the memories are still there, but they're not as traumatic. It's just, there's some bad memories from their past. And if they can look at their parents saying they were doing the best they could with the resources they had, which were terrible resources, they had no idea how to be on planet Earth, no idea how to love themselves, and therefore had no clue how to love children. It could be a reframe that does help once the trauma is cleared, of course. That reframing, the lessons that come from it, that do help a little bit get through that. So it's a useful little tool for just saying, all right, this is the assumption we make. Everyone's doing the best they can with the tools they've got. Now, you've got to make sure you've not, you've validated a person's feelings if they've got trauma, right? You don't want to say, oh, they were doing the best they could, and if someone's gone and been abusive and whacking people, no, that's not good. But if you can help them resolve the trauma, part of that process, that little nugget can help once the trauma is clearing. Once you've got it out of the body, once you've got it out of the mind and you've reframed, it's one of the tools of many that will help them move it forward. But that one's, you don't lead with this one in that extreme context. But in lesser and more shallow context, maybe it's, just every day-to-day grievances, day-to-day issues where you're mad as hell at someone for not pulling their weight or not doing something. Well, maybe that's where it's useful, because you can say, right, he's doing the best he can with the resources he's got, and clearly he doesn't have the resources to help you get what you want. And then this is where you can start to think about that person. And you might even mix it with the behaviors. The person's not the behaviors. The behavior is them trying to handle the world in some way, trying to survive, trying to get through. And then, of course, we've got respecting their model of the world. Well, the other person may not value the thing you value. And that's a very interesting point, which might be useful if you're on a first date to find that out, instead of finding it out, 3, 5, 10 years into a marriage with children. You might want to see, is their model of the world something I want to be around? And not ignoring that on date one. So imagine you're out dating. Respect their model of the world. All right, cool, that's your model and not my values. I'm out of here. Instead of being just the biochemical reaction of love, we can start to say, okay, I don't know if I want to live with that person. And people are not their behaviors. Okay, so you can see, maybe you don't like someone's behavior on a date. And so you can say, well, the person is not their behaviors, but I don't want to live with those behaviors. That's cool. But that person, they might have to go through a few life journeys to get there. But you're looking at things differently. And then everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have. Once again, using the dating analogy, you may want to see if that person has a similar level of resources that you've got. Loving themselves, loving other people, respecting themselves. You want to have a bit of a balance for that. So there's the first three. Respect their model of the world, and you get to look at their model of the world once you ask this question. Instead of being stuck in your model, you can look at their model and decide, do I like that or not? When you're talking about negotiation. If I'm working with a client, well, their model might be different to mine, but my job's to help them. So I'll look at their model, try and understand it so I can get through and communicate better with them, be it my client, be it the person I'm negotiating, buying a car off, be it somebody who I'm dealing with at the local shops. I've got to respect their model of the world depending on how much I interact. People are not their behaviours. So if someone's not behaving how you want them to, don't label them and put them in a box. Just say, okay, that person is doing that to fulfill some need, some value, some belief. Very interesting. And this is where you can start paying attention and understand what you're dealing with so that you can then help them move forward in their life, whether it be a client, whether it be at the local shops, in negotiating in some way, shape or form. And then everyone is doing the very best they can with the resources they have available. That means that if somebody's not showing up, it's because there's not a lot of resources in here to help them show up how you want them to. It means that if someone's not doing a great job, it means that they've not been taught the skill, maybe they've been in the wrong environment too long, maybe they don't have the capability, maybe they don't have the habits, maybe they don't have the right belief system, maybe their values are different to yours, and then maybe their identity on top of that. So if you go through these, you can start to connect them up with a philosophy called the neurological levels of change, which is what I just went through. Because all of these, I can see that there's going to be some environmental issues that are affecting the people in these three rules. There's going to be some habits and behaviors that show up, like in this one. There's going to be then some skills and some capabilities where the people don't have the ability to have the same model of the world as you. They don't have the ability to have the same behaviors as you. They don't have the ability to, show up and do the best they can because they don't have the resources internally, the skills and capabilities. And then, of course, the values. Well, model of the world suggests someone has different values to you. The people are not their behaviors, suggests that you value something and they value something else because their behavior may not be appealing to you. And then, of course, they're doing the best from the resources they have. Their values are built up on top of your life's experiences. And if you don't have those resources in there, those values and those beliefs, you're just not going to be the same person that you would want to be. And then finally, identity. Respecting their model of the world. Very interesting as you look at identity. The model of the world comes from their life experiences. Their life experiences build up into beliefs and values, and then those beliefs and values build up into who am I. You've got to respect who they think they are at the start. And if you're doing change work with someone, as a practitioner, as an NLP practitioner, as a hypnotherapist, whatever your thing is, you really need to respect their model of the world to help them change. Because you can't just say that's a load of rubbish. What's going to happen? Up goes the wall. They're not letting you in. So if you want to help someone, you've got to respect their model of the world, that identity. People are not their behaviors. So if someone has an identity and it's producing certain behaviors, that's the place where the change can really speed up. Don't label them as that a smoker. It's not who they are. It's just the behavior to fulfill a constructed identity. But respect their identity as you help them with those behaviors. And then finally, everyone's doing the best they can with the resources they have available. Look at their identity. Something's happened all the way through their life. They have no other clue. My name's Matthew Tait. I hope that's useful. I hope that little discussion has helped you understand why people do what they do. And if you approach respecting other people's models of the world, you respect that, and then you move on to seeing that they're not their behaviours, and then you say everyone's doing the best they can with the resources that they have, you come at them with a lot more curiosity. You approach them with a lot more sensitivity, and you're not going to be as judgmental of them, and perhaps not at yourself. I hope that helps. My name is Matt Tait, and this is Fork in the Road. Be sure to hit the subscribe button down on the bottom right hand corner. That little button there means that you'll get my videos on whenever I release them. I'll see you next time.